celebrity-wide theme overtaking the Coffinverse in 2023.
Welcome one, welcome all to Beer with Brian, an official program of the Coffin Comics Sworn Club. Unlike a lot of other live streams we do, this one is a very informal conversation. No hard sell going on. This is a chance for me to ruminate a little bit about thoughts and what's going on in pop culture, and a chance for you and I to talk. So if you have any questions, lay them on me. In the meantime, drink whatever it is you want. Fireball, spirits, or in my case, bubble water. Water. It's funny, we named this program Beer with Brian, and it's just not 5 o'clock yet. I completely have a hard time when I'm on the clock to ever drink before 5. So it's tonic water with Brian today. But today, it's an interesting time. I actually finished a yearly physical. I do that, I like to run a tight ship, but did my yearly physical, EKG, the whole thing. So the kid's holding it down. Everything seems to be steady as she goes. That's always good. If you don't do stuff like that, consider it. I do all that kind of stuff, the eyes, the teeth, the physical, get all your stuff checked, get the blood taken, blah, blah, blah. So that's good. Another cool thing about today was today in 2015, we announced that we were doing I think it's around this time, the first Lady Death Kickstarter, Chaos Rules. And so there was a post that came up in Facebook Memories about it, and just the excitement of unveiling everything to everyone. Now in retrospect, it all looks like a done deal, like everything kind of turned out really well. But back then it was the unknown. Would people want it? Let me take you back a little bit into that time. So in 2013, I instituted a lawsuit against my former publisher for reasons. And then my former publisher instituted a lawsuit against me. And there was the all back and forth, and the ultimate settlement came around in October 8th of 2014. Now I had it, and so we settled. And I actually, out of that, was able to retain complete ownership of the character Lady Death and the ability to publish her in the future. But that was not before that publisher would get to do one more series. Settlements. So that publisher actually, the first order of business, 3 weeks after the settlement, they actually launched a Lady Death Kickstarter. And I watched that Lady Death Kickstarter, and some people PM'd me and got in touch with me, and they're like, hey, do you have anything to do with that? And I said, no. They said, yeah, I didn't think so. But in the end, that particular Kickstarter realized about $13,000. Now, that was dire news, I thought, because I knew we were going to eventually settle, and I was actually already planning the Coffinverse. I was planning the stories. I was executing the stories. I was paying, myself and Francesca, we were paying for the stories. We were paying for our legal bills for the settlement. I mean, it was all in at that time. So when their Kickstarter happened, they only realized that amount. I thought, oh man, I mean, for what I plan to do and, take care of the people involved and stuff, like that's not going to work. Oh my God, what's up? So we just redoubled our effort. We just put our souls into it, making a detailed video and trying to make as compelling a campaign as we could figure out at the time. And on, February 5th, 2015, we launched. And in a sense, the rest is history, but I'm here to let you know at that time, it just wasn't a done deal. Where we're sitting now is different than what it was then. It was myself, Francisca, Nick, my friend Adam doing video, and just sort of like, come on, is this going to work? So the first Kickstarter realized about $76,000, which was great. It allowed us to keep funding our projects, funding the current one and pay for printing and the next one, the next one, and the next one. That whole first year of Kickstarters that we did, they all had to work. Like if none of them worked, the dominoes would have just went kablooey. So as I read that post today, and people have been kind enough to comment on it, I'm very grateful for everyone embracing the work. It was not a done deal. And again, very grateful, thankful for everyone who decided to get back on board, and here we sit these years later, and we're all fired up about what's going on in 2023. So that's some of my feelings, my feeling of gratitude towards you guys out there. Because of you, for sure, I get to live a life that I dream of, which is I get to tell whatever story I'd like. In my case, I don't have a boss. I must admit, I see myself like as a wild stallion out there in the wild, man. I can't have a boss. And because of you guys, that's true. You guys are really the boss. And so I answer to you. I also say today is an interesting day between, that thought, the physical, and then today, for all intents and purposes, today and tomorrow, I'm actually putting the finishing touches on the final story for 2024, not this year, 2024. And 2024 is going to be a very special year because that is the year of Lady Death's 30th anniversary. So there I am working on the outline as I do with Mike McLean, and I'm actually getting way to the end in that last couple of pages. And you're going to have to read it when it comes out, but I did get a little misty because it's like, holy mackerel, what a strange trip it's been. 30 plus years of Lady Death in her own comic and remaining vital and exciting for people. So these are some of my thoughts. If you guys had any comments or questions, let me know.
Oh yeah, we got a bunch of comments here. This one's from CMKW6. Hey, Coffin crew and Brian, Lady Death fan and equally big pinball fan. Have you ever considered licensing Lady Death for her own pinball machine?
Sure. If you know anybody, the funny thing is we're comics publishers. That's our core competency. We actually have had these little dancing around conversations. If you knew anyone we should get in contact, it would be a hoot.
Yeah, he's also saying there's pinball companies out there, Spooky, Jersey Jack, Stern, that I believe would do an amazing job staying true to your vision and the Coffinverse.
How great would that be?
Backwoods Collectors asking any plans on having Lady Death sworn coins available again on the website?
Well, that's a very good question. We will start thinking about coins as we get closer to Sworn Fest, February 2024. I know that we're running out of coins, so maybe it's time to get them back, or maybe even to do a special edition of the first ever coin with a new treatment or a new finish.
Let's see. Scrolling back up to the top here. Got a lot here. There we go. All right. Okay. For Matt S. Have you checked out the new series Last of Us?
In fact, I have. If it's post-apocalyptic and involves any invasive species, I'm into it. So I never played the game. Little aside, I've actually not played a video game since 1988, Super Mario Brothers. But we did watch, we're current. We saw the first and second episode. I liked the first episode, but I loved the second episode. Love it. I think that second episode really made it very distinct from other post-apocalyptic and other invasive species horror. So I'm all in. Of course, I love it. I'm happy it's on a Sunday. Walking Dead ended, so now we got Last of Us, and I hope it lasts for many, many years.
Here's one from Nathan. Looking forward to the Lady Death VHS cover. It's coming his way. How do you decide how many prints you do? Let's see. Do you decide, or does the illustrator of the cover say he wants them limited?
Well, as the publisher, I'll be the person who directs the outcome as it relates to the reproduction of the work that we commission. So generally speaking, many of our prints, the great majority, are what we call open editions, meaning they're open, and we offer them initially, and then we offer them from time to time. On our Kickstarter campaigns, we do offer commemorative prints, which are serial numbered and of a limited nature. We offer fine art prints, which are also serial numbered and hand serial numbered and of a limited nature, usually 99 or less. So that's the thought process.
Here's one from Angel. Do you plan to go to CGC offices to sign comics this year?
There is some discussion of something like that occurring, and it hasn't been defined when it should occur. But that has been a discussion.
Here's more of a comment than a question. This is from Matt. Your books got me into crowdfunding comics. Love all your books.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you kindly. Yeah, so speaking of crowdfunding for the year, we have our entire publishing campaign for the year. Our Coffin Comics company-wide theme is Evilverse Unleashed. And coming up just on February 8th is Lady Death's Cybernetic Desecration. Then in May, tying into our theme, is La Muerte Devious. Then in August, the story continues in Lady Death Imperial Requiem. And then rounding out our year is Hell Witch Bitchcraft. Now you'll notice that we have 2 books where it says the release dates are to be announced, but we have a rough idea now of when Lady Satanis and Chaotica Spellbound will be released. We are looking at the summer of 2023 for Lady Satanis, early summer, and we are looking at early fall for Chaotica Spellbound. Both of these books now, I am happy to say, are deep into production. Both books are, Hell Witch is more than halfway illustrated and being colored. Chaotica, the pages are gorgeous, and we're about 40% through, but both books shall be illustrated by the end of March and colored by around May. And the cover artists are bananas, as you can imagine, and they're both stories that we took a great time and passion on.
Let's see if I can boil this one down. This one's from Blast Shark. In relationship to ownership of the original characters, as I know you discussed Evil Ernie in Purgatory. However, so he wants to know about, does that also include characters from Chaos Era like Brock, Azrael, Ravenheart, Volnavia? Is there ever a chance we'll see other sub-characters like Demonatrix and Azeroth?
So, how this was defined is this. Chaos Comics owned the business entity that went into bankruptcy, owned on its own all the characters that had their own titles except for Lady Death. So that would include Cremator, Purgatory, The Chosen, Vanvilla, and others. However, Lady Death's cast and of her characters are owned by our business entity. So several of the characters you've name-checked, Brock and Volnavia, they've already regularly appeared in our books. Seance. So that's that. Yeah. So yeah, they've appeared. So any of Lady Death and her cast, except for Cremator, because he spun off into his own book, which was a trademark, which was an asset of that company. But yeah, all of Lady Death's cast, we're actually using them. That also goes for, by the way, all the stories and characters that were created when I was writing at Avatar and Boundless. We own the right to the story in all the characters and all the creations. That's why you begin to see a character like Wargoth, who is in our universe, as an example. So all those characters I created, Hemlock, and just the list goes on, you know, the monsters and the bad guys.
Victor's asking, while we're asking for talking about chaos characters, why not include a grown-up Sarah Wilson for a Chaotica story?
I'm ignorant. Who's Sarah Wilson?
I don't know who that is. Okay.
I just don't know who that is. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, Chaotica will be in the Chaotica story. Chaotica, her name is Vivian, and since she didn't know initially that Lady Death was her mother, she was raised by foster parents in France, of all places.
Okay. Robert's asking, any Lady Death or other Coffinverse Funko Pops?
No, we have never connected meaningfully with the Funko Pop people. We have not been approached. Earlier in the years when we did approach them, there wasn't an interest. So I haven't seen the Funko Pop people drill down to independent comic publishers, regardless of how popular. And that's okay by me. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know, right now, Coffin Comics will just have to be satisfied with doing work with Quarantine Studios. with PCS collectibles, with executive replicas, with loose collectors. So we're busy in our own work at Coffin Collectibles.
Haley would like to know, is there a possibility of one day of having Coffin Comics themed pendants?
A pendant. I don't know, Haley. I guess, sometimes with us, our core competency is making comic books. So our focus is actually telling stories, putting those stories on paper and printing them, and then either stapling them or gluing them. Sometimes making them prints, sometimes making them cards. We do have relationships in 3D for action figures and statues, but we personally are probably not going to go far out into other areas of expertise because it's just outside of our expertise. Sort of like to liken it another way, like if we were lawyers, we shouldn't be doctors. So we're publishers, so we probably shouldn't be pendant makers. Now, if an opportunity were to come our way and it seemed to be meaningful for both sides, that's another thing. But at the moment, that's just not in the cards.
Hellspawn 42 is asking, any chance of getting a Lady Death or other Coffinverse characters in an animated series?
I don't know. The future is unwritten. I don't know. It's entirely possible. I mean, again, we're not going to be the producers of that per se, but you never know.
Jason Wyatt is asking.
Hey, Jason.
Says, back in the Chaos days, you made Lady Death swords. Any chance you'd make her Coffin era swords?
Well, I don't know that we'd actually go full size, but since you're discussing swords, stay tuned to this current Kickstarter because there may be a really fun free bonus item that has to do with the swords. So just stay tuned. Something that we've been planning for a while, and I think you might enjoy it. But as far as making a real sword, again, probably not our area of expertise. What we're pretty good at is putting ink on paper and then stapling it together or gluing it. That's what we do. As far as working with metal and making molds.
David Fraga is asking, any plans of new Lady Death dollars? Those are cool.
Oh, the bucks.
Yeah.
Well, I do know that when we launched the Lady Satanis and the Chaotica Kickstarter, I am definitely going to do a lot of the cool free bonus items that we've done on previous campaigns. So things like bucks for sure. I definitely like to do those beer can openers and a lot of the familiar, cool, fun stuff that we've done in the past. We would like to do again on that campaign. That way it makes a complete set for people.
Scott's asking, any information on dates for Swornfest next year?
So as far as dates for Swornfest, our estimate would be the last weekend, February 2024. We will be unable to confirm that, until probably the next week or two. It's just the way they booked the space. So if I remember correctly, that's February 23, 24, 25 in Mesa, Arizona.
Tony Wolf is asking, why have we never seen a full nude Lady Death? She has risque covers and all that, but is there a censorship code or something?
Well, there's an internal censorship code. I believe that if we show a full naked Lady Death, that we will eliminate our chances for her ever to become a motion picture or TV show. So while we've been risque and we've pushed it as far as we can, I think if we go in that direction, we will eliminate that possibility completely for all time.
Tony Buck saying, in 4 weeks, the Mafia returns.
Not fest in the house. Hell, we'll be ready for you, man. We're ready, man. We'll close the gates. We'll party.
Matt Nass is saying, Billy Tucci mentioned pizza and snow in Motor City back in the day. Yeah. Any chaos stories of yesterday that come to mind?
Oh my Lord. I mean, I remember that one. That was great. So we were all at Motor City Comic Con. That'd be myself, Billy, Jimmy Palmiotti. So that's the Crusade people, the Coffin people, and the event people. If memory serves, we definitely got snowed in at the con hotel. We probably got pizza for everybody. And we probably just drank our asses off, which is exactly what we did at every con. Like we worked the con this is throughout the 90s. We worked the con all day. We partied with everybody all night until the bar closed every night. And we did that between 1993 and probably like 2000. So that's like every con. We don't do it to that extent any longer.
Evil One Chris is saying, just got back from LCC, filled today. Go watch the 2019 horror movie Trick if you haven't.
Okay, Trick.
He says, pass on the Halloween Ends. He regrets watching that one. LOL.
Oh yeah, I didn't even bother. I mean, I read. I don't know about you guys and gals, but I am personally somewhat bored and disinterested in the constant remakes of things like the Super Slashers, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I don't even bother. You know, it's really super not my jam. So in horror, my jam, what I really like is I like independently produced horror. So movies that come to mind would be something like Hereditary or The Witch. I thought they're very, very strong. I like foreign horror. One that comes to my mind is, I think it's called Them. It's not the Giant Ant movie, but it's called Them. It's about what looks like to be a haunted mansion, but you'd have to go see it for yourself. But my particular jam is what I call invasive species horror. So it's another way of saying things like zombie films or movies like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I love it. I love when there's a giant concept that flips the script completely. I also like eerie horror that's not necessarily supernatural. Where the supernatural becomes problematic for me is I just don't believe in the supernatural. So I'm open, but generally I just don't believe in it. So it doesn't occur as scary to me. Things like ghosts and stuff, it's like, I don't know. So I like invasive species horror. And the other thing that I really like is I love movies about people who are cursed. If a person gets a curse, I like it. So for example, the movie Smile recently from Paramount, I thought that was really, really solid. It was metaphorical horror. You know, there was the thing that was really happening, but beneath the surface, there was a whole nother meaning. And ultimately, the woman and everyone who kind of got in front of this thing was cursed. So those are the ones I seem to like. Now, I adored 80s horror. It was just gleeful. So those supernatural slashers, there was a fun element to Freddy, even Jason. I do like the strong stuff in the 70s, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween. But what happens in the current iterations of these films, it's almost like karaoke. Like, where do you go on it? Halloween Ends. Where do you go? And when they start changing the foundation of what it is, they lose me. So I just love those type of fresh approaches. That's my personal taste.
Jay Taylor's asking,
Hey, Jay.
are we going to have any more male characters in the forefront? It seems like they're put into the background a lot.
Well, you know, I have completed the first of 2 chapters on Mike Morgue, and we will actually begin going into production on Mike Morgue in March, and for probably a 2024 release. So that's a hell of a lot of male energy, Mike Morgue. So yes, Mike is coming. I adore Mike. I'm having a really great time, a fun time. It's very rejuvenating to write him because he has some elements that I enjoyed writing when I wrote Evil Ernie, and that would be ultra violence, a sense of humor, and some heart. So I think Mike has those things, and Mike is nowhere near like Evil Ernie at all. But the commonality is ultra violence, some comedy, and heart.
Okay, got time for a couple more questions.
Time for a couple more.
Wayne's asking, what comics are piquing your interest right now?
The comics that are piquing my interest right now, I really liked the story Grimm from Boom. Check it out if you haven't. I think it ran 8 issues, and it's kind of a new reworking or look at the Grim Reaper as if it is a job. The art was great. The story was really good. Really liked it. I have been, my guilty pleasure reading is I've been reading everything Jason Aaron is doing with the Avengers. So that includes Avengers Forever, Avengers A Million BC. I really on the whole have just been having a blast with that particular one. I just completed reading the 6-issue Marvel miniseries called Dark Ages. I think it came out a couple years ago. And the premise is in the first issue, all electronics are like they're done. And so it's picking up the world after that. And the main villain is Apocalypse. And the main point of view character is Spider-Man. And I really liked it. So that was a good one. Let's see. I mean, you're asking a guy who like reads comics all the time. So additionally, I picked up recently, my hero, Jack Kirby, in the 70s, when he worked for DC Comics, was allowed to try a lot of odd and wild things. So Jack Kirby tried 3 magazines, and I think 2 out of the 3 magazines came out, and I managed to get 2 of the 3 so far. So the first comic comic was called Spirit World. And it's super strange, totally flipped out and wild. So that was great. And then recently I was able to get my hands on another, and it was called In the Days of the Mob. So it's a crime anthology series. Now the third one that was never released, but now is finally in hardcover, and I'm searching for it, is called Soul Love. So it is African-American romance comic. And so Jack Kirby was just a wild man when it came to all different stuff. So I don't know. It's sort of like anything Kirby's like the Rosetta Stone. I feel as if I got to read it and understand it and just look at everything from the surface of it down to the atoms of it, just to try to understand and wrap my head around this mad genius, Jack Kirby. So that's some, and certainly not all, of what I've been reading recently. And I'm always reading comics.
All right, I guess that's it. We should wrap it up.
All right, everybody. Well, look, I want to thank you very much for attending January's edition of Beer with Brian. This is an official program of the Coffin Comics Sworn Club. I highly encourage you to join. If you join the Sworn Club, you'll get your initial membership kit filled with a ton of goodies, but you'll also get 2 key advantages. You get Coffin Comics news 24 hours in advance of everyone else in the world, and you get a 1-hour advantage at all the launches, the great majority of the launches at the Coffin Comics shop. So you guys have been great. I've been Brian Pulido. Thanks for listening. Talk soon.
Evilverse Unleashed, a company